Welcome, fellow readers, to the next episode of Into the Pages. Today we're getting into Words of Radiance and Edge Dancer. So after your fifth or so time of reading this, do you still enjoy it?
Yes, very much so.
Do you know how much time passes between each read?
Last time I read Words of Radiance was when Rhythm of War came out, so whenever that is.
So it's been a while for this for this reread. Oh man, there is so much you forget when it's been... Oh, I know how long it's been since I read Way of Kings, but I do not remember when I read Words of Radiance. But it was shortly after that, I'm sure. So for me, it's been like 6 years. So there was a lot I forgot about. Well, I think this is the most popular of the Stormlight Archive books thus far. And with some good reason. There's lots of good stuff happening, lots of action-y things and new discoveries and all of that kind of stuff, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
In this one, we kind of start off with all the newly freed bridgemen are starting off their duties as guards in Dalinar's army. I am surprised with this one that there's not like more... I don't even know what you would call it, like more rivalry between the High Princes, like with Dalinar being the one pushing for all the things that everyone kind of hates, and he suddenly is just like 6,000 men short in his army. He could have been easily like taken over. But I guess they weren't quite like that or something, but luckily for them, everyone else was still being lazy or whatever, I guess. But I discovered some things with this one too, where like I think Michael Kramer and Kate Redding do such a good job with narrating the audiobook. There were some parts I just like with narrating with Syl and narrating with Pattern, that those two sprint, like they had some pretty hilarious moments that Kate and Michael really brought out in the two sprint that I felt like going through reading it didn't come out in the same way as they portrayed it. It's hilarious stuff. So
I agree and disagree.
Yeah.
I like them both very much, but I cannot stand the voice that Kate Redding gives to Pattern. It sounds like freaking E.T. And it drives me nuts.
Oh, really?
It drives me nuts. Because I don't know why. Because it's not like, because Syl's voice that Michael Kramer does is kind of just like his normal, like kind of girl voice.
Yeah,
but for some reason, it's just Pattern. He's like, I don't know if this is how Brandon imagined how cryptics sound, but it's just, she's just like, I'm Pattern. I'm like, stop. It irks me so bad. I've gotten used to it and like it's fine.
Yeah.
But I just hate how she does Pattern's voice. I hate it.
I totally agree with that. What I think is funny is to hear the way they exclaim, or how there's a part where Pattern's like, what? But like, I just read it kind of as like, oh, what? But like she gave it so much more like whatever. But
yeah, so I was like, what?
What? Yeah, it was more like that.
Go home,
you cryptic. Yeah, I wonder if she did that because he's supposed to be buzzing and humming, and that's kind of how she portrayed it. But
they're trying to make her voice all quivery. I don't know. I guess, but
yeah,
when he does his little humming, when she's like, I'm like.
You gotta like brace yourself for it to kind of get through.
There's even a chapter, I don't know if it's in Words of Radiance, might be an Oathbringer, where Michael Kramer voices Pattern, and I like his Pattern voice way more than Kate
I don't
Redding's.
think I've heard that yet. I want to hear him do it for sure.
Yeah, it's an Oathbringer when they're in Shadesmar.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that's the only time when Kaladin / Adolin, when Michael Kramer is narrating their perspective and actually interact with Pattern.
I'm definitely going to be watching out for that now because I want to see the difference.
It's like 2 sentences, and I'm like, yes, please, thank you. Not this freaking...
You're like, this is way better. You should.
It's definitely worse than Way of Kings, and like the beginning, like the end of Way of Kings. Actually, maybe not even then. More like the beginning of Words of Radiance, when Pattern's like learning, and he like hums a lot more. It's like so annoying. It's just like, what? I'm like, okay, Kate.
You just read those chapters yourself. Yeah, I definitely think Pattern's voice is on the more annoying end. But I've also gotten used to it. He doesn't grind my gears quite as much as it does yours, I think. But what makes me more annoyed is like I hate after like Words of Radiance and then going into Oathbringer, where there's a lot more chapters from Shallan's perspective with like Adolin and Dalinar. I don't like Kate's perspective or way of her doing the male voices. It's just you can do it's more obvious. Yeah. Where I feel like Michael can do a woman's voice a lot better than Kate can do a man's. But I think it's almost unfair. It's like when you get a little kid who's trying to do deep voice and they just do that growl thing. You know, knock him out. That sounds better than I was thinking. But, there's so many good moments in this one. So many shocking moments. I think one of the biggest shocks for lots of people, me for sure, was when Yasna and Shallan are traveling to the shattered plains on a sheep and they get attacked. And Shallan sees Yasna get stabbed right through the chest. She's like freaking out. And I was like, "Oh my God, Yasna's dead, dang." Of all the people, she's like one of those crazy ones who's like, even though she's really far out there and she goes up against like everyone's beliefs and she's like a heretic and whatever, she still manages to like live and no one can get rid of her. I don't know if they were really even trying, but
I think they were. We learned later on that they were sent specifically to kill Yasna, but of course she's not dead because she has Stormlight.
Yes, so. But still, I guess you would think like we're led to believe that, you know, like, oh, just she has Stormlight, sure, but she just got stabbed through the heart, so she dead. But that's still not good enough.
Very hard to kill someone with Stormlight. In Northbringer, Shallan gets shot in the face with a crossbow bolt, and her Stormlight heals her brain around the crossbow bolt.
Nice. So I think
as long as you have Stormlight, you pretty much can't be killed. It's pretty much just like the Allomancers that I forget what the exact power, or not the Allomancer, the Feruchemist who can store health.
Oh yeah, because like that one guy in the first book.
Very hard to kill, but if you keep giving them injuries until they run out of healing, then they'll die. Same with the Stormlight. You can keep pounding on them until they run out of Stormlight, and then they'll die. But
I'm wondering if there's that way. You either got to just pound them until they run out of Stormlight, or maybe like a shard blade through the head or the heart or the chest or severing the spine. Something like that would be too much for Stormlight to heal.
I'd be curious.
I don't think we've never seen a Radiant injured like that.
Yeah, it's always been arms and legs and fingers and stuff.
Yeah.
They always heal those with Stormlight. Even, what's his name? Was it Dabbid?
Yes. Dabbid's the one who, in this book, in Words of Radiance, is the assassinated white comes for Dalinar, and he, kills Dabbid's legs. But yes, spoiler again, Oathbringer, he sucks in some Stormlight and heals himself.
Which is an interesting thing to note, because they do say that, like, so the power of regrowth, which we learn a lot from Edge Dancer, which is like the power to heal, essentially. Like a Radiant can heal someone else. Like, that power of healing has like a time frame. Like, it has to be a relatively recent injury. Because there's another character, Risen, who we meet a little later. She gets, I think it's in Words of Radiance where she gets paralyzed, and then 2 years pass. And when she tries to get healed from Renarin, he says that her injury is too old. But Lopen, who had his arm cut off for who knows how long, when he becomes a Radiant, his Stormlight heals him. So I think it's interesting that if you become a Radiant, the Stormlight just seems like it can heal you. Even Gaz, when he becomes a Radiant, his eye comes back. And so, like, it's like if you become a Radiant, there's no like time frame on what injuries will be healed. But if you're a Radiant trying to use regrowth on someone else, there is a time limit, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah. But you know what's still weird that makes me think of this, because they bring it up so many times, is Kaladin is like one of the first Radiants, one of the strongest. But his slave brand, like, takes forever to heal. I don't remember if it ever gets healed.
I've been theorizing about this read through. And I think Roshar, and the way that Roshar works, it has a lot to do with perspective and thoughts, because, you know, Sprens are pretty much thoughts, and we learn a lot about different Spren react differently based on how people think of them and how people view them. And I bet that because of Kaladin's depression and because of how he views himself, he views the slave brands as like part of who he is.
Oh, so maybe like his
doesn't-
powers kind of read that and like,
so
oh,
that's why
don't heal this.
Yeah, so that's why it does. That's my theory of why his slave brands don't heal.
That's a pretty good theory.
Because everyone else's slave brands healed.
Yeah.
But his didn't. And I think it's because he's like so down on himself. Like he almost thinks that he like deserves it. Like he's like,
Yeah, like
self-loathing and depression.
He wasn't able to save Tien. He wasn't able to save all of his people in Amran's army. He wasn't be able to save some of the bridgemen. So I can totally see that.
Yeah, so
maybe we'll see sometime where he'll be like, oh, actually, I don't suck. This is just normal. And then, bah, gone.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see.
Or maybe he'll die.
I think Brandon does a good job at, in Words of Radiance, just kind of setting stuff up for like Oathbringer. It's been nice to read them through this time again, like so quickly, it's so close together, because it's just, you can see like the growth, specifically with like Shallan. You can see her get better and get worse at the same, like together at the same time.
Yeah.
Like she's like becoming more confident, and she's like kind of overcoming the trauma of her childhood, but at the same time, the way she deals with it is by creating alternate personalities. And then at first it's like, oh cool, she's like creates veil, and then she can do like that. She can.
Yeah, I think it's more in Oathbringer where we see that.
Oathbringer is where it comes out like crazy bad.
Because it's kind of hidden in Words of Radiance as like, oh, she's
like
created veil to
thing,
infiltrate.
Yeah, it's like little things, because like little things like a sentence here or a sentence there where Shallan will be like, oh, I kind of went a little farther. Like veil kind of took over, and then it's like kind of like little hints that like you realize that Shallan doesn't think of this as a disguise. She thinks of it as becoming something.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's like you can, and how she views it, she's like, I can't do this, but who can I become so I can do this?
Right.
When at first that's like, I need to learn, I need to study, I need to go to Yasna.
And it felt like a disguise. Like she was like, oh, I need to infiltrate, so let me just do this disguise.
Yeah.
But she wasn't really like, I need to be someone else.
Yeah, but then when the more she gets better, the better she gets with light weaving, the more she changes, the more she's the less she is of how do I do better at this task, instead of like being like, hey, what can Shallan do, what can I do to accomplish this, she says, who can I create that can do this? So she creates veil, she later creates radiant, and then Rhythm of War we find possibly a fourth.
Not yet. Formless.
But anyway, I think it's interesting seeing that.
Because like the flip
seeing
side
her
is
grow
like,
into that.
She does become more confident. She becomes so much more confident and like self-sufficient, I would say, that when Yasna comes back, she's like, oh, I don't like taking orders anymore. I don't want to be her. She doesn't really outright say it, where she's like, I don't want to be her ward anymore. But she's kind of just like, oh, I have to do what she says now. Yeah. And she's totally used to making her own calls and doing her own thing. And it's like the two people who were kind of like guiding her died. There was Yasna, who, died. And then there was Tin, that lady she meets later on the way to the Shattered Plains, that kind of guided her, and she kind of like refers to
like
someone.
Cons, like kind of be a
right.
better con
She
person,
was something of a teacher. And Rather Yasna, she had someone else to kind of follow while she was still at the same time trying to do things on her own.
I just realized something. I was looking at the art of Shallan. I wonder if those are Kaladin's boots that she's wearing.
Oh, I wondered. They kind of look small.
They look like they fit her, those. They're probably
yeah.
not, but.
Oh, and look, if you want to compare, look at the ones on the front of the book. Maybe those are.
Oh, okay. Yeah, his are definitely.
So maybe they are a little different. If
hers are more like stylized.
Oh, that's funny.
But this artwork brings up a gripe I have, actually.
What's
with
that?
Brandon Sanderson. Is in Oathbringer and in Rhythm of War, the art is the heralds. Like in Year 3, they find that really cool mural of all the heralds. But it's only in those. There's 10 heralds, but so far we only have 4 of them. So I'm like, what? We're not going to get those cool mural artworks of all the other.
So there's, how many do we have so far? We have
there's 8
just an
so
Oathbringer
far.
and Rhythm of War. So we have 8.
Oh no, 4. Sorry.
Okay. So
wait, no, 8.
My Oathbringer's not in here, unfortunately. Because does it do 2?
Oh yeah, so it does 4 per book. So I guess we have 8 so far.
There's 10. So maybe
So I guess we'll get the two
in
more.
Wind and Truth. We might
okay, so I was just thinking of it wrong. Okay, never mind. Take it back.
You just be patient. I wonder.
It's so cool. Like I was just looking at him. I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Who's in the back of Words of Radiance?
It doesn't start till
Oh,
Oathbringer.
it's just the map.
Yeah, it's only an Oathbringer and Rhythm of War so far.
One thing I did like about...
It's kind of cool because you can see... Because Edge Dancer has a lot to do with Nin. And to see him...
Uh-huh.
You can kind of see how, like... He definitely looks like a no-nonsense...
Oh, do you see Nin up there?
Yeah, right here. You can tell because of the moon scar on his cheek that they always describe him by. And he was always wearing that black uniform.
I did not even put that together. That totally... That fits perfectly. That's really good.
Yeah, right?
That was actually another thing in jumping to Edge Dancer for a sec. That's something I totally missed. I totally missed that Nin was that last herald. So I'm reading through this. It's like, oh my gosh, how did I freaking miss that? That was a huge tidbit that I was just... I swear I read that book when I was half asleep or something sometimes.
It's the benefit of multiple read-throughs. You get all these extra little things.
Well, anyway, one thing I think is super cool about I don't know if you've taken your dust jacket off, but I love how it's got like this huge just map of Roshar with like the 10 radiant orders. The only thing that sucks is like this totally like something I would love to like hang up, but it's the dust jacket of my book. So I'm sure if I went and looked on his website or something, Dragonsteel or something.
I know I've seen maps, but I don't know if I've seen him with
I've not seen him with the Radiant Orders. There's also one of the interlude chapters I thought was really fun to read about again. Because again, it was kind of something that I don't remember what my first impressions were when I first read through it, but going through it the second time, I thought it was really interesting to reread it. It was the first chapter with like the Parshendi from like Eshonai's point of view, and I thought it was I remembered them already. I remember them having all the different ways to speak. Like they speak to anger, they speak to the rhythm of pain, the rhythm of agony, the rhythm of anxiety. They got like a whole different way of speaking for every single emotion there is.
Yeah.
And then also all the different forms they have. Like I think these guys, the Parshendi, are a super interesting race where like if you want to be an artist, then you have to take on art form. You can't just be an artist. Yeah. As they show in that, because in that chapter, like they're trying to be
like
art.
The form that they do like kind of dictates what they're able to do. Like
yeah.
Like war, like they said, like war form is more aggressive.
Yeah.
And like work form is kind of just docile, does its own thing. Dull form is pretty much a parchment. And what was the other one? Nimble form.
Yeah, there's nimble.
There's a bunch of others, but those are the ones that they've discovered so far, right? Dull form. Or they have
there's
dull
mate
form, mate
too.
Form. What are they? Dull form, mate form,
war form,
nimble form, work form, and war.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like when in this chapter, I think is when they talk about it. Where like they only know 5 forms, but there used to be hundreds. It's like what the heck? What? And so it's crazy to hear that. I also think their mate form is silly. Like just because like you can only procreate if you're in mate form. Otherwise, you're like.
Otherwise, like you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's funny though because they always mention like whenever you're in Eshonai's point of perspective. I don't know if it's every time, but she does mention in her head a few times. She's like, I don't get how humans are like always in mate form.
Yeah, I remember that too. She say it a lot.
You're like, we don't have forms, stupid. You deserve to die. Just kidding.
I also completely forgot how like the ages of everyone in this, like Shallan and Kaladin are like 20.
Shallan's only 17.
Yeah, so Shallan's 17. Kaladin's like 20 now, which I thought was crazy because that meant I paid close attention to it so I get it right, but now I'm forgetting it. But I think when Kaladin was in Amaranth's army, when he had his own like crew, his own, I forgot what they called his
squad.
Yeah. When he had his own squad, he was like 18. Yeah. And he was already so flippin' good at fighting that in that battle we first meet him on, he flippin' kills a shard bearer. Like, dang. And now he's 20 and he's like the leader of the Windrunners and has done all this stuff with the bridge crews. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
I think Adolin is about 20, don't you think?
I think he's a little older than Kaladin.
He's
like
a little
23
older?
Or something, like 22, okay. 23. So it's not like a lot older, but he's just like a little bit older.
So he's a fair amount. I was thinking of Shallan at this point. He's a fair amount older than Shallan, but still not like terribly. It's not like he's 40 and she's 12 or something.
Yeah, they definitely have like the traditional like old yonder days where like as soon as you're like 15, you're considered like an adult or something.
Yeah, there's some other big parts in the book that I thought was super good, really exciting to read about. There is the bit when the assassin in white attacks Dalinar, and like Kaladin's there, Adolin's there, and they all like barely survive. Kaladin really barely survives.
Yeah.
But one part I didn't remember that I thought was this totally BA moment was when like Kaladin and Adolin are taken out, and and Zeth has a straight shot at Dalinar, and then he's like going in for the kill, and then Dalinar just catches that freaking shard blade like what? Like, I think Adolin and Kaladin were like expecting to see Dalinar get killed right in front of them, and he's just like, nah. It was such a sweet moment. And then of course the super exciting moment was like while fighting Zeth, Kaladin takes a shard blade right through his arm.
Yeah.
And it dies. He can't use it, but he uses Zeth's own spheres to suck in Stormlight, and he's like, hey, I can feel my arm suddenly.
Push. That's how Michael Kramer says it.
Yeah.
He says, Kaladin, push. It was better than that. I'm making it seem silly, but it was good.
Yeah. And then, what I thought was fun about that is Kaladin, in some way, scares the crap out of Zeth because he thinks, like, the Radiants aren't coming back, and he, like, the whole reason he is this truthless assassin is because his own people says, like, no, you're full of crap, and when he was trying to say the Radiants were going to come back, and now he's like, I don't know if it was necessarily, he wasn't really scared of, like, Kaladin. It was more like...
Because he's done such atrocities at this point, like, killing Gavilar was the least of what he's done at this point.
Yeah.
You know, he's helped petty criminals form criminal empires. He helped Taravangian sow chaos, and he's killed hundreds of people. And so he's like totally crazy at this point. But he's like, at this point in his madness, he's like, but you know, I'm truthless. I'm just doing what I'm told to do.
Yeah.
And then he finds out, actually, you were right, and you're not truthless. And so it just like totally unhinges him.
Yeah. And
like you said, I think that's what scares him. It's not necessarily, Kaladin, he can take Kaladin. Like, he's better than Kaladin at this point, especially.
Yes.
It's just that realization. But it's kind of skipping ahead again in Oathbringer. I didn't think about this before, but I think Zeth's the perfect one to train all the Windrunners how to do lashings and stuff.
Yes, quite right.
Because he's like so good, but I don't know if he ever does.
I don't think he does. But Kaladin gets super good at it.
Yeah, Kaladin gets pretty good, but still you have someone who's trained with honor blades. So technically, because whenever we get Seth's perspective, like in Oathbringer, he always mentions, this reminds me of when I trained with the honor blades. Like, it's almost like he trained with all of them. So he could almost train all of the orders except for the Stone Wardens.
Yeah, I wonder, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. If that is true, then I agree he could.
At least tell him like what it is. Like, he probably knows more about their powers than anyone alive right now. I never ever made that connection.
Yeah, because like,
I
don't even think it's Spren.
People, but
like Pattern and Syl are kind of like along for the ride, just like Shallan and Kaladin are. Yeah. They can't just be like, what can I do? So I think there's two more super exciting parts that just like really make this
I have my book open to it.
Oh yeah?
Chapter 57.
Chapter 57. To kill the wind.
This is the chapter when, right before it says, it's like Aelin's getting his butt kicked out of him, and Dalinar's like, what's happened? Where's our honor? And then Kaladin's like, honor is dead. And he took a deep breath, but I'll see what I can do. If this goes poorly, take care of my men. And then he jumps over, and it's kind of like, what? Yes. Like, if you read that at midnight, like, you're staying up for another couple hours.
Seriously. Like, there was that. I went right into it because I remember how exciting these chapters were.
And then, like, the first one and the next one is Shallan, and you're like, son of a... but then she only has like a page and a half before it switches back to Kaladin's perspective.
Yes. And I think that moment kind of got that whole little battle. Well, we're talking about, if anyone doesn't quite know where we are, but Adolin is like trying to duel all these high princes and take their shards away so they'll listen to Dalinar and blah, blah, blah. And he like makes a really big bet with one of the other like princes, and suddenly shows up to the arena and has to fight 4 full shard bearers, and he's like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, so of course, like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and
he's really good. Like,
what is super cool is like he does hold it. He puts them on their defense pretty quick and for a little bit there, which is, I think that's says a lot about his skill in a fight. It's like those four kind of had to like, come on.
Another cool line was from the ardent Niall. I think that's how you say it, Niall.
The trainer?
Yeah, the trainer, because he like yells from Adolin. He's like, they're scared of you.
Oh, yeah.
Show them why. And I was like, chills.
Yeah,
Like,
totally,
like
100%.
that.
I remember that part. Yeah, dude, that was awesome. And so I think the crazy part was like there was a couple, even after fighting for a little bit, Aelin's finally like, yeah, you guys got me. I can't win. And he's like, he tries to surrender, but these jerk.
Well, it's like the judge too, because like they
bribed the judge.
But like the judge is even like he doesn't explicitly say it, but Dalinar, from Dalinar's perspective and Adolin's perspective, they're like, oh, like they bribed her and she's not gonna call it.
Yeah, they were gonna like. I don't think they were gonna kill him, but they were gonna really put him down.
Definitely gonna like at least maim him a little bit.
And before Kaladin jumped in, Renarin tried to go save his older brother, but
he freezes.
Yes,
but it's kind of cool.
I was going to talk about this, like why he actually freezes, but
go for it.
Okay, so he goes in there and like this whole entire time up until this point, from the first this is like a book and a half now. You know, Renarin has like these seizures or whatever whenever he tries to fight, so he's kind of like he's like a nerdy kind of guy. Oh, he like wears glasses and he just is not a warrior type, and so anyway, he goes into the arena to try to fight and like just freezes, like you said.
Yeah, but it's not for the reason that you would think. Like it kind of makes it seem like it's because he has like this. He has seizures that can just kind of come on and randomly and just kind of happen.
Yeah,
so
it's not until Oathbringer that we find out what actually happened, right?
Yes,
that's somewhere in the beginning.
Well,
I don't think it was.
Probably, I think it is Oathbringer.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, because we find out that's when we find out that shard blades are the dead spren of the old Knights Radiant.
Yeah.
And when a current Knight Radiant holds a shard blade, he hears the screams of the dead.
Yeah, I mean, like, we've experienced that with Kaladin. I don't remember if Shallan had touched another shard blade, or maybe it was just Kaladin.
I think the ones that I've heard it are that by holding a shard blade are Kaladin and Dalinar.
Yeah, Dalinar doesn't experience that until the next one.
Like later, yeah.
So at this point, we do know that, like, if a current bonded Radiant has bonded a Spren, it touches an old shard blade, like he hears the screaming. So
there is a funny part though.
Anyway, that's what.
Do you know what funny part I'm thinking about? It's an Oathbringer, but
maybe what?
When Adolin hears the screams.
Oh, I haven't got that far yet, so I don't even remember what happened.
Oh, so they go to Shadesmar. Adolin and Shallan and Kaladin are in Shadesmar, and Adolin's kind of like a little nervous, and he tries to summon his shard blade. But before they notice, like, oh, there's like this weird Spren standing next to me. He tries to summon his shard blade, and then his Spren's like, I remember he's like, oh, son of a... He like tries to, like,
that would be pretty horrifying.
Like, I have no idea this person is standing next to him, and he like just starts screaming, like blood curdling screaming. I don't know why it makes me laugh when I read that. It's like super tense at this major battle, and I'm just like,
That would be that's funny for our perspective. If we were there, I'd be wetting myself. Yeah, so anyway, with a little bit of Renarin's help and Kaladin's help, Adolin comes victorious.
That's only climax part 2.
Exactly.
There's still a lot of things that happen. First off, we get kind of another setup for Oathbringer, because they're going out to do a survey to scout, because Dalinar wants to attack the Parshendi once and for all. And on one of these scouting trips, an assassination attempt puts Shallan and Kaladin in the chasms. And while they're there, all sorts of amazing things happen. One of the more important to the story, at least maybe character development, is Shallan and Kaladin kind of trauma bond.
Yes.
So they have like, you know, they live through like two seriously life-threatening things. One, they have to survive a chasm fiend, and they like barely survive and kill it. And then 2, they survive a high storm, barely right after that. And during that high storm, they both tell, like, you can almost picture like the flashbacks are them telling each other their stories. Because like in Wave Kings, we had Kaladin's flashbacks, and in this one we have Shallan's flashbacks. And they tell each other that. And so they kind of bond because they survived life-threatening things, and they bond because they shared their issues. Doesn't really come up until Oathbringer when there's kind of like a weird love square.
Yes.
Because you have like Shallan likes Adolin, but Vale likes Kaladin. So it's kind of like this weird.
So kind of a love square is quite accurate.
It's like two guys are in love with two different personalities of the same woman. Anyway, that happens, which is a big part. That's like climax 2. I might be missing one in the beginning of the book, but then climax 3 is the actual fight with the listeners.
Yeah, that part you're talking about when they're in the chasm was I don't even know what you want to call it, like a sad nail biting, like anxiety moment, because like at that time that is when Kaladin breaks his oath and like almost kills Syl, and at this point he can't just fly him and Shallan out because
this is after he broke his oath.
Right, I know. Yours.
Oh yeah, because
I was just saying like that's a big part. Like getting to that, like Kaladin, what now? Because up to this point you're like, oh man, Kaladin is such a badass, and then you're like, he has no powers now. It's gut wrenching. I hated it.
That was pretty sad.
And I don't know. I was thinking in this part of the book, Kaladin kind of had a clue that Shallan was a Radiant, because when he uses her shard blade to fight the Chasm Fiend, he doesn't hear the screams, but you could take that as like, at the same time, you could take that as like, well, he's not bonded with Syl right now, so maybe that's why he wouldn't hear a scream.
And also, he didn't know at this point.
Yeah.
The reader didn't know either that the shard blades are dead spren.
Oh, they didn't yet?
No.
That must have been my future knowledge of already reading the series.
Yeah. Well, we know that, rereading it, we're like, oh, that's why. But I think at the time, we're like, oh, yeah, pretty cool.
Yes.
But, and maybe it has something to do with that, too, like that. I bet it's both things.
Yeah. So and
plus, Shallan's blade isn't dead, so.
Right, so it's like two things.
So even if he was bonded with Syl, it wouldn't have screamed.
Yeah, I wonder if she would have been able to like tell, like, oh, he's her sprint. Syl said something in this book that I thought was really interesting. She just said that all the Night Radiants are all broken, and it's like you can see how like that's true. You can see all of Shallan's problems, and you can see all of Kaladin's problems, and later you can. You know, when Dalinar bonds the High Storm Father, just the Storm Father, like, you know, he's got all of his problems with dealing with his past as who he was as the Blackthorn, and kind of regretting all that. And later when he remembers how his wife died, he's like, I hate my freaking self.
Yeah, seriously.
And so I just thought it was interesting, like if that's like a common thing with like all of the Radiants, is like they're not perfect people, that are all these like broken, but I wondered if that's like the reason, but it's what makes them so strong and such, is they're not just like these perfect beings who have never had any hardships in life. Like they've had some of the hardest lives, so they're just like tough stuff.
Yeah, but at the same time, Elhokar attracts the cryptic, so
he has lots of problems.
You don't have to be like a down and out broken person. You can be a king and still have mental
Maybe
issues.
he only attracted to cryptid because he kept just lying to himself. I'm a good king. And he's like, no, you suck.
If you think about it, it makes sense, because he had similar lies to Shallan, because he felt like he was living in Gavilar's shadow and Dalinar's shadow, and he was trying his best to do it. But that's another thing that after you read through, in Way of Kings, when you hear Elhokar's descriptions of what he sees in the mirrors. Yeah, I think at one point he mentions like strange figures in straight robes and weird heads, and you're like, holy crap, cryptics are following Elhokar. And then the climatic battle, last few hundred pages.
This is good stuff. The
listeners have all taken on storm form, except for a few that ran away that are dead. Wink, wink, hint, hint. No, they're not. But yeah, it's a battle with them, and it's a tough battle. They're like winning and then losing, and then they just, it's like everything happens all at once, like a vomit, like most climax usually are. But like they discover the Oath Gate. They're trying to figure out how to work out the Oath Gate. The Everstorm is coming, and they're like doing all this stuff, and it's like a crazy, frantic thing. And then the Assassin in White comes back, and then Kaladin saves Elhokar from Moash, and then reignites his
barely,
because at the last minute he swears the third ideal of the Windrunners.
Yes,
and
then Syl comes back. He's able to heal himself.
Syl comes back. He heals. And then
I don't remember. Does he heal and then kind of fight off Moash and the other guys?
No. As soon as he bursts the light with Stormlight, when he serves the ideal, Graves panics and runs away, and then Moash also runs. And then it doesn't say this, but it's later. He then takes Elhokar to Lopin's aunt's house.
Oh yeah, that's right, to keep him safe.
Yeah,
because couldn't just leave him there. They probably would have tried to assassinate him again.
Yeah, and then he flies and saves Dalinar. Gets there just in time. Because Dalinar is fighting the Assassin of White, and the Assassin of White lashes him and sends him in the air. And that's in Kaladin, from his perspective, is like all of a sudden he sees this glowing white light. And he's like, "The hell?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Dalinar."
Yeah, better catch him.
Like, come here, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
And then an epic battle ensues between Szeth and Kaladin.
Yes.
Again, Szeth is better than Kaladin,
just
because of practice, but because Kaladin's a Radiant, he does have a number of hefty advantages.
Yes.
The biggest
one of my favorites, I think maybe you're just about to say this, one of my favorites is that you learn in this moment that a living Radiant with living Spren doesn't have to have one form of weapon.
Yeah.
And he's able to form still into all sorts of things that he uses.
I think it's a lot of stuff. He does a sword, a shield, a spear,
a hammer.
There's all sorts of stuff. And then even in Edge Dancer, Lift turns Wendell into a fork.
Yeah.
So.
And she doesn't even use a sword. The first time she uses him, she turns Wendell into a rod.
Yeah. And then we also know, because we've read so much, Sunlit Man, what Sigzil does with his Spren is...
Yeah.
He's like, it's literally like... Can you imagine it? Do you know what it is? Then the Spren can become that.
Yeah, literally.
Like anything from a chain to a dome to say.
Because wasn't that was a big point in that thing? They wanted, or he was thinking of changing his Spren into something, but he's like, I don't understand how this thing works, so I can't do it. I remember that part.
Yeah.
So that is super cool.
Yeah. Again, it makes sense because the Spren of Roshar are 100% affected by how people think of them and view them and perceive them. So it kind of makes sense that if that's the case, then you can do anything. And he seemed really limited. Had a bunch of different reasons why, because of him holding the Dawn Shard. But I wonder if he had still had his full oaths. Like if Syl and Kaladin can... I wonder if they can do some crazy snizzles.
Yes. One thing I thought was... I'm just thinking about with this fight between Szeth and Kaladin is it does talk about how the storm continually renews Kaladin, so he can take a hit and heal and still have plenty of power, and he doesn't have to worry about his spheres running out. But I wonder, was Szeth the same way?
Yeah,
was it like Szeth?
Because it wasn't like renewing Kaladin directly; it was renewing his spheres.
What was it renewing his spheres? I thought it was renewing him directly.
Yeah, but it was doing for both of them.
Okay, that's what I was thinking about Szeth. Is it was just automatically renewing.
Another advantage Kaladin had is because he's bonded to a Spren, he's a little more efficient at holding in Stormlight than Szeth is. Like Szeth leaks it crazy with the Honor Blade, but Kaladin doesn't leak it quite as much. Which, when you're flying in front of a storm, doesn't matter. But
but if they were in any other situation, then
but even in Oathbringer, when Szeth's trying out, I don't even know what the word you want to say, going with the Skybreakers, when he swears the second ideal of the Skybreakers, he gets access to, or maybe it's the first ideal. Whenever he's able to inhale Stormlight, he even mentions in his mind, he's like, wow, I can hold it in a lot better than I could with the Honor Blade. And then you have, of course, you have all the way to the Fused, who can hold it perfectly. They don't leak any Stormlight. So it's kind of interesting.
Wasn't there a part, I can't remember when it was, but I remember that Kaladin took a leaf from Dalinar's book, and at one point he caught a Shard Blade too. When did that part happen? Was that was like with the duel with Adolin, or maybe when he was fighting Moash?
It might have been during the duel with Adolin.
I think that's when it was. Because it wasn't when they were fighting in the storm.
No.
Him and Szeth. Okay, but that was a pretty sweet moment too. It was like, you learned good stuff pretty quick.
But yeah, and then Words of Radiance ends with them transferring to Urithiru. And then I think there's a few other epilogue things after that, but...
Yeah, one of them is we go back to Wit's perspective, and he's happens to know exactly where Yasna is going to appear, and we find out that she went to Shadesmar and is now just getting back, or did Wit pull her out somehow?
No, he just knew where to stand when she came out.
Okay.
And then he shares
but
some stuff.
That's the big reveal at the end there is oh my gosh,
Yasna. Yasna's live.
I wonder how many people like Yasna.
Like readers?
Yeah.
Sure, a fair amount do.
Because she kind of can be a butt sometimes, but she's not that bad. I don't think she's hated. I don't hate her. And then, yeah, in between books 2 and 3, we get Edge Dancer, which is it's a really interesting read, I think, as it introduces Lift, and we get to learn about that 10th Herald. Nail, right?
Yeah, because Lift. This is an interesting story. Kaladin, Brandon, in his post note of this, said that he wanted to have Lift have her own little thing to kind of explain how she got to the fourth ideal. She's at the fourth ideal. She at the third.
I want to say it was the third, but I don't. Because isn't the fourth when they get the armor?
That's the fifth.
Oh, that's the fifth.
I don't remember, but it got her to that point because in Oathbringer, he said it was kind of clunky when she just kind of shows up and then already has a shard blade. So he's like, I wanted something of that, and he said he also wanted something with
Nil a little better as well.
A little better, so that's how we got Edge Dancer. So
yeah,
there's this little thing because if we remember from the interlude of Word of Radiance, we get a chapter or two of Lift.
Yeah,
is it just one chapter?
I think it's one or two. No, it's just one.
It's just one.
It's just the one. Like in the beginning of Edge Dancer, it's the same interlude as the interlude where like she's going to this place to rob it,
to rob him, and then
she saves that boy, or what? He was on their team.
Yeah, Cox. But anyway, so she saves him, but then in Edge Dancer, turns out that she doesn't. It takes her most of the book to admit this out loud because Wendell's constantly like, "Why are we here? Like, why are we here? Why are we here? Why are we here?" And she's always like,
"Because of the pancakes."
I want the pancakes. And he's like, "BS. Why are we here?" And it finally comes out that it's part of her. What makes her an Edge Dancer, which is she knows that the reason she calls him darkness is to kill someone who's innocent, and she's like, I have to stand up for people who don't have voices for themselves.
Yeah, she's got really interesting oaths. Like I remember those who are forgotten, and I won't forget those who are forgotten, or I forgot what it was.
I'll remember those who are forgotten. Yeah,
yeah.
And what was the third one? She was like, I will listen to those who something or other.
Yeah, something like that. If I knew where it was, I would look it up really quick, but I'd take.
Yeah, it would take a second, but. So she is at the third. So she has done the third because the first one is Life Before Death. Her second one is I Will Remember Those Who Are Forgotten, and then her third one is I Will Listen to Those Who Have No Voice, or something like that. I don't know.
That's pretty close. I think it was something like that. How do you like Lift as a character?
I've noticed the more I read Brandon Sanderson's books, the more I notice that, and I'm not mad about this, but I'm sure a lot of authors do it, but he has a lot of similar characters in a lot of his books. And I think Lift and Lopin are almost exactly like Wayne.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
Like,
I even think
even the accents, the accent that Wayne and Lopin have from listening to,
they're like the same. Yeah,
listening to Michael Kramer are like exactly the same. That's probably more like a dig on Michael Kramer than it is on Brandon Sanderson. But but their personalities too. They're both kind of rowdy. They're both kind of like on face value are like, dude, you're wackadoodly batshit crazy, like stay away from me. But then the more you get to know them, they're like super loyal, awesome friends. They'll do anything for the people they love, up to and including sacrificing their lives to protect those they love, and that's totally Lift and Lopin. Yeah. And so I like Lift, but
I think she bugs me. Like Lopin and Wayne do not bug me. I like them a lot. But she annoys the crap out of me sometimes with this the way she views the world. Like she didn't want to stay with Gox at his castle because they let her do whatever she wanted. Like, oh, they want me to learn stuff. Like,
what? But then you have to step back and be like, she's 11.
Is she 11 or is she like? I thought she was like 12.
She's 12 in Oathbringer.
Oh, okay.
Or 13.
Yeah, still though, like her annoying backwards idea of the world. Like, you need to just bucks the crap out of me. But I've often wondered if like I wonder this reading through Oathbringer when you see a little bit more of Lopin. I wondered if like Lopin, Hoyd, and Wayne would like. They could all be best friends and like hate each other.
Always somewhere in between.
Yeah, maybe like because I know they all have their silly little beliefs and stuff. Like Lopin, his thing is like everyone's his cousin or whatever, and then Wayne is always like trading stuff, but he gives crappy trade backs like a rat's tail or something. It's like what the crap is that here?
So it's like a mix.
Yeah, but then
like
again,
Lift's stealing food and Lopin's just general silly way of interacting and talking with people, but at the same time like totally being disarming and welcoming to like everyone. So.
Yeah, one of the funniest parts in Edge Dancer I thought was when like Wendell, who is Lift's spren, thinks that she's going to go spy on Darkness, on Nil, and to see what he's up to. And then, like, all she does is break into the place where he's, like, meeting with his Skybreaker people and then eats his dinner. And she's like, hey, we're done.
I remember Wendell was, like, full on panicking until she ate his dinner. He was like, oh, that's it. Okay, let's go back to easier. Oh, that was crazy. Like, don't ever do that again. But then it turns out she's like, actually, the real reason I'm here is because he's going to kill someone innocent, and then they kind of decide together, like, yeah, we got to save this person.
Yeah.
But
and we'll have to talk about this more in Oathbringer, but man, I feel bad for Nil. He got screwed hardcore, if you ask me. Anyway, that's next episode.
but anyway, yeah, that's it for Oathbringer and Edge Dancer. So,
well, words of Radiance.
What did I say?
Oathbringer.
Oh.
We've had Oathbringer a lot in this episode, too. It's a good segue for the next episode.
So next year, we'll bring Oathbringer and probably a little bit of Rhythm of War and Dawnshard.
Next year?
Whenever the next episode is.
The next episode, yes, that's a good way to say it.
Just 1 month until Dragonsteel. So
super excited. We got a little teaser. This last week is this. Before this episode, we got the email from Dragonsteel, like, here's the map. We're like, oh, dang. Do you guys feel like a number one fan? Are you guys going to compete in that little number one fan competition?
I'm going to try to. I put in to see if I could get drawn. But
I might put in if it's not going to be
trivia
stuff.
Like, there's 5,000 people coming, and they're only picking 16.
Yeah.
But I don't know if all 5,000 are going to try to participate, but
there's at least 5,000 possible participants.
Yeah, so I have a
it's going to be exciting.
Very small chance, but that'll be fun. We're looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Be sure to join us again. We want you around for Oathbringer. I'm forgetting it. I keep looking at Rhythm of War right there. Oathbringer's a little slower book, but dang, it is still really good in my opinion. Yeah, Oathbringer and Dawnshard we'll cover next episode. Yeah. We'll see you then. Bye now.
Bye. So